We will not allow sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. So, in today's video, I want us to talk about the economical relationship between Africa and the West, and by extension, the East as well. And of course, this is a common subject to talk about. Now, what I want us to expose, or rather talk about in this video, is the fact that the West and China does not want Africa developed because it is in the failure of Africa that their industrialization, their development, the success of their development is squarely related to the failure of Africa as a continent. And I have always said that Africa is a very rich continent, but with poor people, because the poverty in Africa is a scheme, is by design, is planned poverty to keep Africa where it is for the success of the entire West and China. The developed a developed Africa means a failed West in the current developed world. So let nobody lie to you that the West is interested in the development of Africa as a continent. So Africa is, I can say this without fear of contradicting myself, that Africa is the richest continent. And we know that, and that's common knowledge. If you don't know that, I don't know what in which world you claim to come from. Africa has all the resources. Africa has, if it is natural resources, abundant in Africa. If it is human resource, abundant in Africa than in any other place. Africa has intellects, has intelligence. And Africa has, if it is solar energy, Africa is so strategically placed in such a position that it can even power the whole globe if it was to really harness its solar power energy. Uranium from Niger powers the whole of France. But you know what's ironical? Niger does not even have power. Congo is, as we talk during the recording of this video, Congo is bleeding because everybody is, scrambling for Congo, the rich resources of the Congo basin. And now they have sent the whole country into chaos and a chaotic conflict. And we know how this conflict is related to the West. It's nothing new by now. We all know that the conflict in Africa are to distract Africa itself from development, from its own potential. The Congo is so rich with all the natural minerals. A small country like Israel is a reputable and well-known global a producer of diamond, yet they barely have a diamond mining in their country because they steal those resources and refine it and now sell it. South Africa, with all the diamond and gold, have never traded their gold as a finished product. Nigeria, a world-renowned, one of the largest, oil and petroleum deposits in the world, does not refine its petroleum. It has to go to the West as crude oil to the US at throwaway price, and then finished products are imported back to Nigeria and Africa at exorbitant prices. And when recently we know what's the story that has been hitting the headlines about Aliko Dangote, the richest man in Africa, when he tried to, when he tried to establish a refinery in Nigeria so that the oil in Nigeria can be mined in Nigeria, processed in Nigeria, and all the finished products produced in Nigeria for the benefit of Nigeria and Africa in its entirety. We know what has happened to him, what's happening to him right now. The West is sanctioning the whole process. He can't do anything. He's counting his losses currently because, the West will not accept to lose a market. The United States will not accept that Nigeria will process its crude oil into finished product and sell it at a good price because they will lose a market that they have been exploiting. Now, it goes without saying that even China is a new partner of Africa currently in terms of development. While China cannot be, held to account for being able to, colonizing Africa during the colonial period, but there is a neocolonialism. Now, China is bombarding Africa with loans at interest rates that they get to decide for one reason, and just one reason. Because they know, they have discovered, or they have always known this, the West knows this very well, that whoever controls Africa, whoever has a firm grip of Africa, controls the world, militarily, economically, and even politically. So now Africa must also be careful. The new bromance, friendship coming from the East is not so very different from that came from the West. Everybody is scrambling for Africa to benefit themselves first. Some might have way worse intentions, but does not cleanse the intentions of others. So there is this video by this academic, this lecturer that I want to share with you. Let's watch this together so we can get it from a different perspective, and let's have a conclusion at the end. So here is the video.
Africa, historically, sub-Saharan Africa, has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. Okay? And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. Okay, but this is the opposition that they're fighting. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay, so this is what it's fundamentally about. What I want to show you is how these structures are operating. It's just 20 minutes, so we can't do very much, but just to give you a little bit of an idea. And why I keep the ideology part there is because we are part of the producers of ideology. At universities and academic institutions, we are complicit in this whole enterprise. Okay, so the job of many Western academics is to convince Africans they have to keep doing what they're doing. Okay, and to show them it's your fault that you're poor. It's not our fault. It's your fault that you're poor. You know, so this is what we do in academic institutions, and I want to show that as well. We just start. This is what it's basically about, so you know what it's about. But I want to just show you the extent to which Africa is specializing in the production of raw materials and basic agricultural goods. We know the basic forces that have caused this underdevelopment. We know it's colonization. I will not discuss that very much because my colleague speaker is going to go into some aspects of this. But I do want to discuss the global economic structures, the global financial institutions, and economic ideology, briefly, to give you a flavor of those. The thing that you really need to see is the top line. Okay, and the extent of dependency is captured by this statistic at the top. Okay, and you compare it with all other income groups, and what you see is essentially in that one statistic how dependent sub-Saharan Africa is on raw material production. Okay, this is the very heart of what makes sub-Saharan Africa beat. Okay, here, just to have a look at one very important additional statistic. With all this export coming from sub-Saharan Africa, how much does sub-Saharan Africa account for in terms of global trade value? We know there are vast resources coming from there, but look at the bottom line in terms of global trade value. Look at that. 0.5%, 1975, 0.95% going down to 0.1. To 0.1. Meaning that with all these vast resources being produced, how much are they getting for it? Nothing. Nothing. This is a very significant piece of data. Then I just want to show you what has happened to sub-Saharan Africa, because what we know, and from all studies, no country ever develops without manufacturing. Okay, producing raw materials will not take you anywhere. Producing basic agricultural goods will not take you anywhere. And let's have a look at how much manufacturing activity takes place in sub-Saharan Africa. We can look over the last 15 odd years, 15, 20 years, and we see manufacturing has actually declined as a percentage of the total. This is percentages of total production in sub-Saharan Africa. How much of it is accounted for by manufacturing? So this figure here is 17% of the total. Most of the rest, when we talk of industry, it includes manufacturing, but the bulk of it is mining. Okay? Raw material extraction. This is the bulk of it. And here we see actually raw material extraction has stayed the same. What has caused industry to fall is the fall in manufacturing production. This is deliberate because we will never, as Western economists, as Western policymakers, we cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and start producing manufactures. Okay, so we will do everything to stop that. And I'm going to show you how we actually block that. It's obvious in certain ways, but it's less obvious in other ways. Now, we have actually seen periods of rapid growth in sub-Saharan Africa, misleading people, saying, oh, you know, we're now doing much better. And this has happened recently. Recently, I've had students come and tell me, we've done much better now. And you can see growth rates rose quite sharply in recent times. Now are starting to go again down. But if you look historically, the same thing happened earlier. Why? Because in these two periods, we had East Asian rapid industrialization processes. So in the earlier period, we had Japan and Korea and Taiwan. Okay, rapid growth, sucking in raw materials from Africa, driving up the prices, and then sub-Saharan African countries grew. Exporting raw materials, they grew. But after those countries finished industrialization, then sub-Saharan African growth rate again fell. Okay, but along comes China. Next wave. Okay, again, sub-Saharan African growth rises, but now China is going down. As many of you now know from the press, China is going down. But sub-Saharan Africa is going down even faster. And we're going to go back to where we were again, with very low prices of raw materials, very low growth rates, and again, the sorts of poverty that we saw once before. Because, bottom line, sub-Saharan Africa is condemned to this role, just the supplier of raw materials, not a manufacturer.
Well, so you have heard that clearly, that, and I have always said, even before, that, you see, even the sheer existence of the World Bank and the IMF, their existence, their success, relies on the failure of Africa. Look at the loans, the interest they advance, on the loans they advance to African countries, and compare the interest of those loans once advanced to the developed world. It is from Africa that they get, all of the profits that keep them afloat, keep them going. So this simply means one thing. The failure of Africa as a continent means the success of the West and China. So it is by design that Africa is put to be where it is, so that other people can keep and continue reaping and benefiting from Africa's immense resources, immense wealth. So we can I think we have come to the end of this video at this point. I would love to get your reactions, your thoughts and opinions on this. You can leave me a comment and like this video and share this video. But most importantly, if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to support this channel. Until next time, see you in the next video.